This tutorial will help you to complete the questions on homework number 9. The first lesson is on two-step equations. So with two-step equations, you want to isolate the variable by adding or subtracting the constant to both sides, and then multiplying or dividing to clear your coefficient. Let's take a screenshot of this question here, which asks us to solve for y. And let's get started. So my first problem here is that I have a minus 22 and I have a divide by 5. So I need to undo or reverse both of those operations. So the first thing I'm going to do is add 22 to both sides. When I do that, the 22 will disappear from the right, leaving y divided by 5 by itself, and then negative 11 plus 22 is 11. So the inverse of dividing by 5 is multiplying by 5. Those are inverses. And what I do to one side, I do to both sides. So the answer here is that y is equal to 55. So we'll type that in, and we'll try another question. So solve for c, where 3c plus 2 equals negative 10. So let's clear this out here, and start with our constant. We're going to subtract 2 from both sides using our calculator if we need to. Negative 10 and negative 2 make negative 12. Divide both sides by 3 and use your calculator if you need to. Negative 4. One more time. Last question. Okay. Solve for a. So first we clear our constant, which for us is 28. So we're going to subtract 28 from both sides. Use your calculator if you need to. Negative 21. Divide both sides by negative 7. And a is equal to positive 3. Alright, let's type that in. And now let's try our next lesson. Linear equations with distribution. So this one looks pretty long, but the inverse operations are always the same. First thing we need to do is clear these parentheses by multiplying the 3 times every term inside. 3x, and 3 times 1 is 3. Everything else remains the same. On the left-hand side, I have 3x and 4x, and I also have plus 3 and plus 3. So these items that are underlined in blue are like terms, and these items with the green are also like terms. So when I combine like terms, I get 7x's, and 3 plus 3 makes 6. And now I can do the same two operations I did on the previous lesson. Subtract my constant from both sides. Divide both sides by 7. And we get 4. So we'll type that in here, and we'll try one more. Again, be careful when you're distributing this time, as I see some negative signs here, so let's be careful. 3 times a minus 2 is minus 6x, and 3 times a minus 3 is minus 9. Everything else stays the same. Now be careful here with your like terms. This says minus 6x, and this says plus 4x. And a minus 6x and a plus 4x make minus 2x's. And then a minus 9 and a minus 3, that makes minus 12. Negative 9 or negative 9, subtract 3. Now we'll use our inverse operations. Pause the video if you need to. Use a calculator to help with the math. We'll type this in, and we're going to move on to the next lesson. 3 steps. Now this one is new for you as an 8th grader, where you have variables on both the left and the right side of your equation. And all that means is that you're going to use your addition or subtraction property of equality with a variable term. So I have a variable on the left and a variable on the right. They cannot be combined because they're on different sides. So I'm going to use the opposite of minus 8x. And notice I'm writing the 8 and the x, the whole term. I'm going to write that underneath here because they are alike. So when I rewrite my math here, these make 0. But this over here makes 4x. And I'm going to bring this down, bring down my equal sign, and bring down my 16. And now I have a 2-step equation just like before. Alright, pause the video if you need to look at that a bit longer. Type your answer in here. And let's try this again with variables on both sides. Again, we're solving for x, but when the x's are on different sides of the equation, we need to use a property of equality to move one to the other side. And again, you can go either way. I prefer to move my variables to the left, so that's why I keep subtracting whatever's on the right. These are inverses, so they disappear or make a 0, right? And this becomes a 3x minus 1, bring down the equal sign, bring down the answer, clear my constant, clear my coefficient. Right, you want to see one more? Let's take a look. Solve for x. Again, I'm going to move this over even though it's going to give me a negative x. That's okay, because I still have the same inverse operations. And I'm actually going to get a positive value when I'm done. Alright, let's take a look at the last 2 topics here that have to do with angles and transversals. So this has to do with finding out whether the angles are equal to each other, like they're vertical, they're corresponding, they're alternate interior, or they're alternate exterior. Right? So when I highlight this angle here, the one that I'm looking for x, and I'm given 112. And they told us that line M and N are parallel. That's what this means. So I know that this transversal, right here, this line, makes 8 congruent, or 4 congruent angles, and another pair of 4 congruent angles, and these two are corresponding. And if you know that they are corresponding, you know they are equal and congruent. They're the same. They're the same measure. So if this one is 112, then x also has to be 112. So I can type that here in my answer box. Let's try this again. I'm looking for x. I was told 72, and these two are also corresponding. And corresponding angles are equal. By definition, they are equal. So x is also 72 degrees. Okay, now take a look closely at this one. Angle x is this acute angle here, and now they tell me this angle right here. Now, I can clearly see with my eyeballs that one is acute and one is obtuse, so there is no way that these are equal. No way. It's not possible. Okay, obtuse, acute. Now, this angle up here, 116, it corresponds to this blank angle right here, but they're equal. So I know they didn't tell me how big this angle is, but because I know this angle corresponds to this blank one, I can write the number 116 there. And these two angles together make a half circle. So these two are supplementary. So x plus 116 is supplementary. So if I add, if I subtract 116 from both sides, then I can find my missing angle measure. So that would be 4, that would be 120, and that would be 64. So 64 is my missing angle measure, because those two are supplementary. Let's try that one more time. Look carefully at the size of the angles. Use your common sense. If I have angle x, which is acute, and this angle, which is obtuse, there's no way that they are equal. But these two angles are corresponding. These two angles are corresponding. So if this angle is 131, this angle is 131. And these two angles here make 180. So x plus 131 is supplementary. So x is equal to 49. So we'll type that in here. So you got to use what you know about which angles are equal and which angles are not. But try and visualize, at least with your eyes, whether they look like they're the same size. See, I've got an obtuse and acute, so they are not the same size. They must be supplementary. Subtract 149 from both sides, and you'll get your final answer. All right, let's look at this last topic. We have several lines this time, but L, M, and N are all parallel. This line here is a transversal. Let's mark the angles. There's angle 1, there's angle 2. They're clearly not the same size. They are not equal to each other because one is acute and one is obtuse. They are not vertical, they are not corresponding, they are not alternate interior, they are not alternate exterior. But 137 is corresponding to this angle. So I can write 137 there, and then I can see that these two are supplementary. So I can subtract 137 from both sides and get my final answer. So the missing angle is 43 degrees. Now don't be scared by all these lines. Make your marks, right? X and 63. Obtuse, acute. They are not equal in size, so they must be supplementary. Subtract 63. And get 117. Okay, last one. This one asks us to find two angles. So I was given 142, and I want to find x and y. Well, it looks like y is acute, but it looks like x is corresponding. Oops, that does not look good. X is corresponding. So they are the same size. So I can see here that this and this are the same size. So I'm going to mark that x is 142. But angle y, okay, is supplementary. So angle y, my missing angle, y plus 142, that would equal 180. My marker's acting funny, but I would subtract 142 from both sides. And y is equal to 38. It looks crazy, but I think you get the math. So don't be scared if they ask you to find more than one angle. You can do this. Please make note whether the angles have a relationship, like 49 and y. They do have a relationship. It's not corresponding though, like all the rest. This one is called alternate interior angles. And alternate interior angles are equal. They're congruent. So that means that y is also 49. But x and 49 are supplementary. So I would write an algebra sentence for that. And I would subtract 49 from both sides, and I would get my missing angle measure. 131. All right, that concludes our homework tutorial for homework number 9.